Hello everyone, and welcome to the September 18th, 2016 edition of the Astrology News Report. I'm your intrepid host, Ron Berger. In this segment, we'll take a look at the upcoming planetary patterns and predictions, what's on the celestial agenda for September 18th until September 25th, and beyond. On Saturday, September 17th, Mars entered Sagittarius, where it will be for 6 weeks, until October 31st. Mars is a fiery planet. Sagittarius is one of the fire signs, so, overall, this is a good fit. Sagittarius is a positive sign, enthusiastic, gregarious, truthful, generous, and so on. Since Mars is the planet of passion and action, it usually functions well in this sign. The only downside may be too much emphasis on the Sagittarian qualities of willfulness, personal independence, and devotion to one's personal beliefs. In other words, self-righteousness. Mars in Sagittarius is great for the true believers. In other words, all those who are fighting for their own beliefs. Okay, so now I'll go through the zodiac and analyze the potential effects for each rising sign chart. I'm a Vedic astrologer, so I am using the sidereal zodiac. In other words, the zodiac you can actually see by looking up at the night sky. If you are only familiar with your Western astrology chart, then you need to subtract 24 degrees to get to the sidereal positions. For instance, if you are Cancer 12 degrees rising in Western astrology, then you would be 18 degrees Gemini rising in Vedic astrology. You can also use your moon sign or your sun sign as the reference point, but using the rising sign generally gives the most accuracy. Starting off with Aries rising. Mars transiting in Sagittarius in your 9th house, the house of good fortune, religion, father, guru, meritorious deeds, and long-distance travel. Mars is an action planet, so going on a journey would be appropriate. But Mars is also the planet of combat. Not so good for relationship with father or guru. Mars in this sector of your chart will compel you to promote your own beliefs, to fight against anyone else whose beliefs don't agree with your own. The planet of action in the house of meritorious deeds, especially in generous Sagittarius, inclines you to be helpful to those who are worthy of your attention. For Taurus rising people, Mars is transiting in your 8th house, the house of partners' wealth, financial arrangements with others, secret actions, chronic problems, and humiliation. The planet of action is unwelcome in this part of the chart. Careful of giving into impulse for an indulgence that turns out to be regrettable. When in Sagittarius, Mars gets over-enthusiastic and tends to rush into things. New financial involvements, and even existing ones, could become a source of contention. Mars is the planet of infections, injury, and surgery. The 8th house is the house of chronic health issues. Mars will be transiting in the 7th house for Gemini rising charts, the house of one-on-one relationships, in other words, spouse or significant other. Also, business partner, clients, and dealings in distant places. Mars is generally problematic for relationships. When it transits through the 7th house, there's more likelihood for aggression, impatience, angry outbursts, and even accidents. Mars's energy can be successfully used for actions with partner, in other words, doing things together, especially physical activities. So go on a trip, or repaint the room, or something like that. Mars powers up the 7th house of the direct enemy, so this would not be a good time to be engaged in a legal battle. If you are a Cancer rising person, Mars will be transiting through your 6th house, affecting your health, employment situation, relationship with coworkers, and ability to solve problems. A natural malefic like Mars transiting through the 6th house is considered useful for defeating enemies, overcoming obstacles, solving problems, and so on. But it can also bring on a sudden health issue. Mars is the planet of infections, inflammations, injury, and accident. The planet of action in the house of employment could be good for the job search, but as the planet of combat in the house of co-workers, it does not promote harmony with the people you have to work with. For Leo rising people, Mars transiting in Sagittarius puts it in your 5th house, therefore affecting your relationship with your lover and or child. Mars is proactive, especially in Sagittarius, and in this position could bring about a sudden infatuation. But generally, the planet of combat is not so good for the smooth operation of this part of your life. Mars likes fast results, and in the 5th house of creativity might bring a flash of inspiration for some new project. With this transit, the relationship with your child works better if you can engage in 5th house activities together, such as playing games, going to the movies, and so on. Mars, the planet of victory, likes competitive games. Mars will be transiting in the 4th house for Virgo charts. The house of contentment and domestic harmony is not a favorable place for aggressive Mars. Everything works well only so long as there is no disagreement or opposition from others. The home front will be vulnerable to episodes of passion, anger, upset. Relations with mother will be less than ideal. Mars likes physical activity, so one positive outlet for this energy in the 4th house is to do some home improvement project. Put up the new bookshelves, build a deck, work on the garden. Libra rising people will experience Mars affecting their 3rd house for the next 6 weeks. This is considered to be a favorable transit. It's the planet of action in the house of self-efforts, the do-it planet in the house of skills and talents. Best to have something that needs doing, that puts your skills to use. The only downside is that you have to be careful about being overbearing. Mars, the planet of impatience, in the house of siblings and neighbors, can become too aggressive in those relationships. Also, the impulse-impatience factor of Mars, applied to the 3rd house of everyday actions, makes you more inclined to have accidents. For a Scorpio rising chart, Mars will transit the 2nd house of personal finances, materiality, family, and speech. The planet of aggression in the 2nd house indicates harsh speech. Mars is not a friendly planet for the house of family relations. Mars may be proactive for new developments in earning money, but simultaneously can boost expenditure, because this is the house of material belongings. You get too excited about acquiring the whatever it is, and impulsively go out and buy it. Mars, as the planet of infection, transiting your house of the mouth, is problematic for healthy eating habits, and can even indicate a trip to the dentist. If you are a Sagittarius rising person, the Mars transit will affect you very directly by transiting your 1st house of self. This is an energizing transit. Mars likes physical actions, so it's best to have projects to do. Mars is combative when challenged, and Sagittarius is naturally combative when faced with disagreement anyway. So, best to stick with people you already believe as you do. When transiting through your ascendant, Mars makes you ambitious, impatient, and subject to your impulses. Mars likes competition and victory, so anything that has the potential for winning is a good bet for putting the Mars energy to use. Capricorn rising people will experience Mars transiting in the 12th house, the house of hidden things, the unknown, which includes unknown people, unknown places, as well as the subconscious. Mars is the planet of attack, and when transiting in the 12th house of the unknown, indicates somebody making a move against you from behind your back. Even if there is no physical threat, Mars here will produce fear of the potential, in other words, anxiety. The planet of action in the house of humanitarian acts may impel you to go out and try to save somebody, or save the world. If you are Aquarius rising, the Mars transit in Sagittarius will affect your 11th house, the house of goals and ambitions. The action planet in this part of your life is useful for pushing you towards more achievements. It may help your involvement in another 11th house area, group activities. Mars is impulsive. The 11th house is the house of hopes and dreams. Careful you don't embark on some venture without sufficient planning. And lastly, Pisces rising people will have Mars transiting in their 10th house, the house of actions in the community, career, and professional activities. Mars gives you energy to work hard at your business, to take action in your professional pursuits, gives you the courage to initiate a new project. But this is also the house of authorities, in other words, your boss and the government. So you have to be careful of getting too aggressive and risking conflict with your superiors, or run afoul of government officials. And another thing, like all planets, Mars throws its energy full force to the other side of the zodiac, in this case impacting Gemini and any planets therein. In Vedic astrology, Mars also throws a full force aspect 4 signs, in other words 90 degrees, ahead of itself, and 8 signs, in other words 210 degrees, ahead of itself. From Sagittarius, these aspects will impact Pisces and Cancer. The aspect of Mars, the planet of attack, is not considered beneficial. Therefore, if you have a natal planet or sensitive point in Gemini, Pisces, or Cancer, you have to expect some problems in the area of your life signified by that sector of your chart. Also, this week, Mercury comes to the end of its retrograde period on Wednesday, September 21st. The planet of rational thinking, communications, information, returns to normal forward motion in the zodiac, and its significations get back to normal. So this is a good thing. Well, almost. The problem is that Mercury is in a close conjunction with Rahu, the north node of the moon, one of the eclipse points. Since it is an eclipse point, Rahu tends to obscure or distort whatever comes in contact with it. Mercury is the planet of communications, facts, and information. So, a big potential for distortion of the information. Rahu is also a significator of obsession, thus an obsession with information and facts. In other words, a big week for the news media. Anyway, until Mercury gets away from Rahu, which will take another week or so, we still have to put up with communication problems, obfuscation, media spin, crazy news cycles, until the end of September. And before leaving you, there's one more item worth mentioning. Thursday, September 22nd, is the autumnal equinox. That is, when the sun crosses the celestial equator, the imaginary line in space directly above the Earth's equator. Designated as the beginning of autumn in the northern hemisphere, this is the time when the duration of night and day are equal. The sun is at the midway point of the yearly extremes of its path in the sky. In Vedic astrology, this is considered to be a time of transition, and therefore weak for results, and therefore not recommended for starting new ventures on the day of, and the day before, and the day after the equinox. Okay, that's it for this week. Thanks for visiting astrologynewsreport.com. I'll be posting updates during the week on Twitter at Astro News Report.